Welcome back to the Puddin' Creek Rod Shop. Now, I'm just getting the shop opened up this morning. I've already had 2 cups of high-octane coffee. The second cup of coffee, I accidentally spilled some of that Lucas Oil zinc additive in my coffee, and that's really got me fired up. And what am I thinking about this morning? I'm thinking about the color purple. No, not the movie. The color purple of the engine block for the bad coupe. Now, if you remember when we bought this car, it did not have its original engine in it. It had this replacement engine right here in it. And this replacement engine was painted this dark purple color. But as you recall, we're trying to restore this car to the way it looked in the magazines in 1977 or so. So we need to know what color the engine block was back in the day. Now, if you watched last week's episode, Doug, the guy who's building the new engine for the bad coupe, he had the block stripped down and ready to send off to the machine shop for all the machine work. And he'll have it back in a couple of weeks, and he's going to need to know what color to paint it. Now, anytime I have to research anything on the bad coupe, I start right here with the owner's manual. Well, the engine block does look like it was purple back in 1977, but maybe not that dark purple that's on the replacement engine. It really looks more like the color purple that's fogged in around the edges of the inlaid panels. So then I dug out a couple of the original photos of the bad coupe from back in the day and held them up to the purple on the inlaid panels just to see if it was a match. Well, that makes sense that they would use the same color purple as they used on the inlaid panels for the engine block, but also from looking at these pictures, it looks like originally the valve covers had that same color purple painted down in between the fins. At this point, I'm pretty satisfied that is the color purple we need to go with, but I would like to see some physical evidence. I'd like to see some of the purple DNA left on the car. Now, I don't have the original engine block, but I do have the original bell housing. Well, I can see this bell housing's been Chevy orange at one time and gold at one time. I can see some of the dark blue paint that's on the outside of the car. Hey, what's this right here? This looks like it might be a little bit of the old purple left over. Let's squirt it with a little Windex and get a little better eyeball on it. Now, the Windex wasn't quite getting the job done, and I put the last gallon of mineral spirits I had in this little antique miniature parts washer that I got at that estate sale a few videos back. So let's rob a little mineral spirits out of there and do a little more cleaning on that purple. Now that's a little better. You can't beat mineral spirits for breaking down grease fast. I would say there's our physical evidence. I'd say that's the purple we're looking for. Let's compare it with the purple on the car. Well, it's close, but not exact. Of course, the purple that's fogged in on the car is fogged in on top of blue paint, so I would assume that's going to make it look a little bit darker. But that's what we'll do. We'll match the engine block color to these inlaid panels that's on the car. I'll probably pull the deck lid off of this car and get the little woman to help me, and we'll take it into our paint store. We've got a guy here locally who's top-notch on mixing paint colors. We'll get him to mix us up some of that purple for the engine block. Oh, and I'll have him add just a little bit of pearl in there to give it a little flip-flop since it's a show car and all. In the old pictures, you can clearly see the recesses between the fins of the valve covers. They were painted that same color purple. But here the valve covers are, and they're not purple, and they're not a blue that matches their car. They're a completely different color blue, and it's not a recent paint. This is old paint. It's shrunk and cracked, and I mean, this looks like it's from the 70s. Now this creates another conundrum. How do we restore this car? Do we leave it this dark blue in the recesses between the fins because that's the color it was when we found it? Or do we scrape it out and sand it out and put the purple paint that we're getting mixed up down in there because that's what it was back in the magazines? Or choice C is kind of what I'm leaning towards. Maybe we take that purple paint when we get it mixed up and just paint over top of this old flaky cracked blue, which will give it an old flaky look so it looks original, but it will be the correct color. Now, I kind of feel like we're all in this project together, so you guys leave in the comments. What would you do? Now, the parts that I've had on order have started to come in for the bad coupe, and I know what you guys are thinking. Oh no, a Speedway box. Surely you're not ordering Chinese parts to go on the bad coupe. Well, let's don't knock Speedway too bad. I mean, Speedway's a good company. If you order something from Speedway, it comes in fast and they hardly ever mess your order up. But I'll have to agree, I wish more of their parts were made in the USA. And I guess if they were, they probably couldn't compete with Jegs and Summit and all the other companies that's selling Chinese parts. So who knows? Now, the bad coupe had all Aero-Quip fuel line and fittings, and the fittings are all good. I'm just replacing the old 70s rubber fuel line, and there'll be a hard line running the length of the car. This just goes from the hard line up to the carbs, to the fuel block, rather, and back around the fuel pump, there'll be a couple little pieces of this. I'm anxious to find out if Aero-Quip stuff is still made in USA or not. It says 100% of our hose is made in the USA, and all of our fittings and adapters are distributed from our warehouse in Van Wert, Ohio. So I take that to mean the hose is USA made and the fittings are probably not. So we're reusing the fittings from the 70s, so those are USA made. And this hose is still USA made, so we scored here. We're still all USA made on the parts we're putting on the bad coupe. I got on Fleabay the other night, and I was able to find this old chrome voltage regulator cover. Now, here's the voltage regulator that was on the bad coupe when I bought it. You can see here it looks like it had an original GM plug. I'm thinking that's probably the original from the 69 Z28 that the engine and the rear end and everything came out of. But at some point, somebody had upgraded it to a brand new Chinese voltage regulator, and I didn't want to put that back on the car. So I got on eBay and I found an NOS American-made voltage regulator for $20. It's on the way now. It hadn't came in yet, but when it comes in, we'll put this chrome cover on it. And this Chinese voltage regulator, we're going to throw that over a ravine. Now, this box of stuff I ordered from Amazon. These are the motor mounts that we're going to attempt to use. We'll open them in just a minute. This is the oxalitic acid. I first learned about this stuff from the guys that restore antique license plates. This will take the rust off and not affect the paint. There are a couple places on the bad coupe that I want to test and experiment with and maybe try this oxalitic acid to take some of the rust off and not harm the paint. So we'll do that later. That's not today's project. Now, I told you about these motor mounts back in a previous video. These are actually, I think, truck body mounts. But Dennis at the Early V8 Garage, he has been using these to mount small block Chevys in original 32 Ford frames. They're polyurethane instead of rubber, and they're a little taller, a little thicker, and they don't crush like the rubber flathead biscuit type mounts. So anyway, I ordered a set, and we're going to give them a try on the bad coupe. Actually, I ordered two sets here. They're only $28 a set, and I thought that'd give us enough piece parts to come up with whatever combination we need to get the right height of the motor. And we'll reuse those chrome washers that was on the old ones from the 70s. and, paint any of this gold hardware black that's exposed. I'm not sure what parts of this we're going to use, but I bought 2 sets, and we'll come up with something. Well, I keep my nose on the grindstone, work hard every day. Might get a little tired on the weekends after I draw my pay, but I go back working. It's a big job just to getting by with 9 kids and a wife, but I've been a working man dang near all my life, and I go back working. Got to buy my babies a brand new pair of shoes. I drank a little beer in a tavern, cry a little bit of these working man blues. Shoo-wee, that was wild. There must have been a little bit of gas left in the bowls on those carburetors. I got a big whiff of it and it went straight to my head. I started dreaming I was playing this weird electric guitar that looked like it had been painted by a bass boat company, except it was gold. I mean, it had to be a dream. Nobody would have a guitar that gaudy. Now, like I said, Doug is building us a new engine for this car, but he's going to reuse all the original speed parts or dress-up parts, whatever you want to call them, that was put on the car in the 1970s. All this aluminum parts, like this tunnel ram that the guy who built the car took to the Kirby vacuum cleaner factory and dipped it in the chrome tank. So this is an aluminum Edelbrock tunnel ram, but it's been dipped in chrome. But then it's sat around for decades, and a lot of the chrome has got chipped off and beat up, and the underneath aluminum is oxidized, and it's kind of rough. So anyway, we've got to get all this restored and back to as good a condition as we possibly can and get it ready to take to Doug's shop so he can put it on the new engine. There were 8 slotted screws, just regular flat screwdriver blade screws, that were holding these adapter plates on. 6 of them came right off, no problem, and the other 2 are really tight, and one of them looks like it's already been stripped out many years ago. So as not to strip it out any worse, I wanted to hold maximum pressure down on the screwdriver and use one of these engineering wrenches to break it loose. Some of you guys told me in one of my prior videos that you call these thumb wrenches. I thought that was a pretty good name. I'd never heard that one before. Anyway, I'm trying to be real careful. I don't want to strip out the one that's not stripped, and I don't want to strip out the one any worse that's already stripped. This is the one that the screwdriver slot is really wallered out. Is that a word? It's really kind of half stripped and it's super tight. This one's going to be a problem. Now, as I told you before, my main goal when working on these old cars is like a physician. My motto is do no harm. So I want to try to get this out, but I definitely don't want to strip it out any worse than it already is. So I went to the toolbox and I dug out this little punch. This is a punch out of a die. Think of tool and die. Yeah, that's where it comes from. This is made out of A2 tool steel and it's heat treated, so it's super hard, but it's just small enough that I can get it on one side of that screwdriver slot that's all wallered out and peck it in the direction that I would be turning it to loosen it, and hopefully I can peck this thing loose. Man, it's super tight. They didn't want these carburetor adapter plates to come off. All right, it came loose. See, you don't always need a bigger hammer. Next, I need to separate the two halves of the tunnel ram. It looks like there's 4 bolts holding the two halves together, and it looks like they've been in there since the 1970s. Boy, I sure do hope these are not super tight. Well, the bolts were barely tight whatsoever, but these two halves are stuck together for real. I don't know if somebody used some silicone on the gaskets or if it's just 50 years of being together and they don't want to be apart. I'm looking around to see if there's a bolt I've missed somewhere, but I think those 4 bolts from the top are all that was holding it. Now, the wood didn't prise it apart, and I didn't want to stick a screwdriver or a chisel in between the two halves and mess them up. So what I did was took a real thin putty knife and slowly worked some of the gaskets in, which kind of pushed them inside the manifold, and then I was able to separate the two halves. I forgot to press record on the camera for that segment of it, so you just have to take your old buddy Puddin' Creek's word for it. Now, I don't have to worry about saving these gaskets. I ordered a brand new set from Edelbrock about a week ago, and they're already here and ready to go back in when we get this thing cleaned up and buffed out. Well, I moved outside to clean the inside of this manifold out. I'm out of mineral spirits, so I'm having to use gasoline to clean it. And you know what those gas fumes do to me. So I moved out here in the open air because I know you guys probably couldn't stand 2 songs in one video. Now, I've run into some of you at car shows recently, and you asked me where my old hot rod buddy is. Well, he got in a little bit of trouble with his wife, and he's not able to go out to car shows for a while. You might say he's grounded. Here's what happened. Him and his wife, they were just sitting around talking one day, and she said, what if something happened to me and I was to pass away before you? You think you'd get married again? And he said, I really do like being married. I don't know, I probably would. And she said, well, if something happened to me and I passed away and you got married again, you think you ought to live in this house we live in here now? And he said, well, it's an awful nice house and the mortgage nearly paid for. We probably would. She said, well, if I did pass away and you got married again, you think you'd let her wear my jewelry? And he said, "It's awful nice jewelry I bought you. It'd be a shame for it to sit there in a dresser drawer and nobody ever see it again. I probably would." Well, by this time, she's starting to get a little aggravated, a little perturbed, and she asked him one last question. "If I did pass away before you, and if you did get married again, you think you'd let her use my golf clubs?" And he said, "Nah, she's left-handed." Anyway, my old hot rod buddy, he's going to be grounded for a while. Now, believe it or not, Windex is pretty good to take off those old dried gas stains, where gas has dripped down on this manifold and kind of hardened over the years. That Windex is pretty good about taking it off. Check this out. Gasoline that's leaked and dried and hardened as hard as a rock there on the top of this manifold. Been there since the 70s. And I'm just using Windex. I know you guys think I just make this stuff up, but Windex is about the handiest thing you can have around. Look how it's dissolving this old gas crusty, whatever you call this stuff. Now that I've got it clean, just real quick, I'm going to go over it with some mother's polish just to see what will shine up, using nothing but the mothers, and then see what I'm going to need to get a buffing wheel or something to get more aggressive with on the places that the chrome has problems or the chrome's chipped off. Now, the top half of the tunnel ram, it's not too bad. I think it's going to clean up pretty good, and I don't think it's going to require a tremendous amount of work. But this bottom half, it's a whole nother story. It's as rough as a night in jail.
Hello, welcome back to the shop. Today is mail day. We have a package from Scriva Aviation, and I think this goes with the pressure gauge that was found at the estate sale for $20. A whole lot of stuff in here. Now this is supposedly, I guess, maybe where you could find it for sale.
Now, if you remember, guys, a few episodes back, I went to that crazy estate sale, and I bought this thing here that I think I told you was an aircraft tire gauge. I think I only paid $12 for it. Anyway, Mr. Sam Scriva, he hit me up and said this is not a tire gauge. This is used to fill the aircraft struts with nitrogen. and he sent me the extra attachments that you need to do that, to operate it. And he also told me that these things sell for $750 new. Mr. Scriva also sent me one of these 3M deburring wheels. Now, I didn't have one of these in the shop, but I actually have used them before many years ago. These work really good if you cut out a part and it has a burr on it and you don't want to put it on the grinder, and that would grind the burr off, but it usually grinds some of the part off too, the edge. This just takes the burr off and it doesn't affect the part. Some people call them blending wheels. Mr. Scriva sent us a whole care package here for the shop. We really appreciate it. And in his email to me, he mentioned he's looking for a 44 Deluxe Dash with the ashtrays and the glove box. So if you got a good one of those laying around and you'd like to sell it to him, just send me an email and I'll get the information to him.
This is from How About It? Strongbird carburetor dealer. How About It? It's a nice shirt. How About It Flathead? Nice cup. Thank you. This is from Rick Robertson. Says, I hope you're able to put this to good use. Love your shows and can't wait for Mondays to roll around. Best wishes, Rick Roberts. Son, Rick Robertson. So these are flathead parts. Old school. Thank you, Rick. We appreciate you watching our show. We appreciate everyone that has sent something, and we appreciate you mostly watching our show. That's enough. Is that working? Just take that in and delete it.
Tell us what you're doing.
Try to steam this upholstery to see if it'll bring out the dirt in the cracks. Cool.
The situation has turned into a situation.
Good thing I had it on my leg. Hey, a lime would be good though.
Clean?
I mean, for a salvage material. Yeah.
Now guys, on this intake manifold, there's areas of it that the chrome is just chipped off and you can feel the rough edges that are left. But this center indention here, this relief, it don't appear to be chipped off. It's kind of weird. It's really corroded and the reflective chrome part of it is gone. So I don't know if it wasn't chrome plated properly to start with in these recesses, or if the chrome plating, the top layer of chrome is gone and all that's left is the nickel underneath. I'm not sure what's going on here. Now the normal plating process is a triple plating process. If you're going to chrome plate a part, normally you dip it in copper first. The copper promotes adhesion. And then the second coating is nickel. You dip it in nickel, and the nickel is kind of a corrosion preventative coating. And then the final coating is the actual chrome, which is the reflective part, the shiny part. Now, the weird thing about this intake manifold is I don't see any evidence of the copper layer. So I don't know if the case is that because this was aluminum, you didn't need a copper layer, or they just skipped the copper layer and maybe that's the reason a lot of the chrome is flaking off. On the places where the chrome is completely flaked off and it's just down to the soft aluminum, I'm going to take these little Scotch-Brite wheels and get the oxidation off the aluminum. I found over the years it makes the aluminum a lot easier to buff out if the oxidation is gone first. And I'll try to buff that aluminum out so it's shiny, so it kind of looks like chrome. You'll still be able to see the chipped edges of the chrome. This intake will never be perfect. I'm just trying to make the spots that are all corroded, make them shiny again. Like the rest of the car, this is going to have kind of a patina. Well, I was cleaning this manifold with 3 hands, and then I stopped because I thought I heard a noise outside. Kind of sound like a truck pulled in and then left again. Now this grinding grit from the Scotch-Brite wheels, it's all in my eyebrows and my ears and stuck between my teeth. But maybe I ought to stop for just a second and ease on out toward the front door and see what's going on. Now, I haven't had time to clean up the Lady Luck coupe since we got stuck in that crazy rainstorm. I've probably got a whole day's worth of cleaning on it. Well, good night, nurse. What in the world is this? A ceiling fan? I didn't order any ceiling fan. Now, you guys have been sending us a lot of cool packages in the mail, but surely you didn't send us a ceiling fan. I'm so confused. The address says Cleveland, Ohio. Now, it's probably about this time in the video that you just turned to your wife and said, "Old Puddin' Creek looks like he just saw a ghost." Well, if what I think is in this box is actually in this box, it's going to be like seeing a ghost. I know there's been a lot of unboxing footage in this episode, and it wasn't planned that way. You're probably saying to your wife, "Wow, is this a Christmas episode of Puddin' Creek Rod Shop?" Well, it just turns out that way sometimes. I mean, I had no idea that somebody was going to drop a ceiling fan box at my front door in the middle of the workday. It's at this instant right here that all 50,000 of you are simultaneously thinking the exact same thought. He just bought a Cal Custom oil pan for the bad coupe. Now he's bought another one? Well, this is not another oil pan. This is the oil pan. You see, our friend Don Moyer up in Cleveland, Ohio, he did some digging for us, and he was able to find the actual oil pan that was on the bad coupe back in the 1970s. Yeah, that's right. This is the one that got took to the Kirby factory and dipped in the chrome tank and was on the bad coupe when it was in those magazine articles. Well, there it is, the original 1970s Cal Custom oil pan made in Carson, California, and then took to the Kirby vacuum cleaner factory and dipped in the chrome tank and then put on the bad coupe. It looks like it's got a broke screw in this one area right here, but I'll get that out. That's no big deal. I've got to get this thing restored along with the manifold and get it up to Doug for the new engine build. A huge thanks to Don Moyer for digging around and finding this original oil pan and shipping it down here to East Tennessee to us. And that lets us get the whole dress-up kit back together again.
Mm-hmm. Together again?
Oh, yeah, like Fred and Ginger and Lester and Earl.
That's right.
The oil pan wasn't the only thing in that ceiling fan box. There was two smaller packages. Let's see what they are. Well, honey hush, that's the original slave cylinder for the clutch that got chrome plated and put on the bad coupe back in the 70s. It's still got the part number on the side. Surely we can find a rebuild kit for this and get it back on the bad coupe. Now, I promise you, this is the very last item we're going to do an unboxing on in today's episode. Well, good googly moogly. That is one cool t-shirt. Now here I've switched over to the buffing wheel and the red rouge. Now you only want to use this on spots that are bare aluminum. I'm not using this on any of the chrome. That was the whole idea of using the mother's polish by hand and finding out what parts of the chrome are good and shiny, because I don't want to touch those with the buffing wheel or the rouge, because that will just eat off the chrome layer and get you down to the nickel layer. And the nickel layer is protected by the chrome, so the nickel, it'll shine up nice and pretty, but it won't last. It'll just turn back and oxidize. Now I'm using this piece of worn out 1000 grit sanding sponge just to get rid of the oxidation in the places where the chrome has completely flaked off and we're down to bare aluminum, or in the areas where the top coat of the chrome is gone and there's just a little bit of nickel left and that nickel has oxidized. I'm just using this to get all the oxidation off before I do any buffing. I'm being real careful and not using this on any of the good chrome sections. I'm just using it on the parts where you really can't do any damage to them. They're already shot. When I was buffing out the top half with the red rouge, that rouge was packing up under the places where the chrome is chipped, almost like red clay mud. It was kind of just making a mess. So I decided for this bottom half to switch to something that was much cleaner on its buffing. I remembered a few years back I had ran out of red rouge and I was buffing some aluminum on the buffing wheel, and I just tried some mother's polish because it has a little bit of abrasive in it to bring out the shine in the aluminum. Anyway, I tried that with the buffing wheel and it worked great, and it buffed out really clean. It didn't throw that red rouge, red clay mud stuff all over your face and didn't pack it all down in the letters of the parts. So I decided to switch to the mothers on this deal here. also the big buffing wheel that I was using on the die grinder on the top half, that was really just too big for this job. I need to do more detailed buffing because I want to stay off of the good chrome and only buff out the places that the chrome's chipped off. So I switched from the die grinder to the Dremel tool and these little small buffs. I think the secret to buffing out aluminum is keeping the wheel clean. If you remember, I showed you this when I did the firewall, but I'm using the same principle here with the Dremel tool. Once that aluminum builds up on my wheel or the oxidation and the crud, I move it over to this old junk file and I run it across this junk file a few times just to clean the wheel so I got a nice fresh wheel to start with. Then I apply some more of the mothers and then I buff, and I just keep doing that over and over. Now, I've never worked at Advanced Plating or any big plating company. I'm just showing you what I learned from years of doing this on my own. So if your neighbor does all the buffing for the Riddler cars and he says this is not the way to do it, take his advice. I'm just some hillbilly in a barn trying to build hot rods. Now, I had said earlier in the video that I didn't see any evidence of the copper plating, but as I started buffing right here in this area, you can clearly see remnants of the copper plating. So they did do the copper coat on this manifold. Like I said earlier, any good plating job starts with getting copper plated first, and then nickel plated, and then finally the chrome plating on top of that. It's a three-step process. Sometimes you hear it called triple chrome plating. Finally, I'm done with all the buffing. Now I need to clean out all the threaded holes in the manifold. I keep some bolts around with a notch already ground right in the end of the threads just for this purpose. Now you could use a tap to do this, but sometimes a tap takes out some material in the threads. And like on this aluminum manifold, I don't want to make the threaded holes any bigger. I just want to clean the junk out of them. So just take yourself a bolt and grind a notch right in the end of it where the threads are and screw it down in there, and that notch will wipe all the threads clean and clean them right out. Well, here it is. I spent about 5 hours buffing on it, but I think it turned out pretty good. I mean, considering how bad it was when I started on it. Now, like I said, I started out with a red rouge and a big buffing wheel and a die grinder, but that was just making a mess. So I switched to the Dremel tool and I switched to using Mother's polish. There's no buffing compound used on this manifold at all, just Mother's. That's all I used. And I used this yellow kind of firm buff. I think they call these a rag buff. But again, I don't work at Advanced Plating, so you might want to ask somebody that knows. But anyway, this one's kind of firm, and I used it to do all the rough buffing. And then I used this soft buff to do the finish buff. Again, just using the Mother's polish and nothing else. I tried a bunch of different buffs, but this combination right here turned out to be the hot ticket for this project. I don't know about you guys, but I'm pretty stoked at how this intake manifold turned out. I mean, this is just the first part. I still got to do the valve covers, and I still got to do the air scoop, and I've still got to do the new oil pan that we just got sent in the mail. Oh yeah, and then there's the motor mounts. They're old chrome too. They got to get the same restoration. Oh, and then the front dropped axle, it gets the same treatment, and the front leaf spring and the front shock mounts. Oh, and all 4 of those old Krager wheels, they're going to need this same treatment too. Wow. Well, that was a pretty good day's work. I feel like we got a lot accomplished. Are you guys thinking what I'm thinking? Let's pull a Hank Snow. Now, friends, neighbors, and the whole hee-haw gang, we sure appreciate you guys coming back here every Monday to spend time with us. If you enjoyed the show, leave us a comment and let us know, or sling a thumbs up at us. And as always, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already.